Now we have wildlife in here. We have the page room owl. Wow.
Six o'clock.
It is at 6 o'clock. You guys ready? All right. Okay, 6 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's all stand to the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Next up, we have public comment. As we talk about any of these things that we have information on, when we get to them, we'll open up for a chance to speak there in the topics. So if you have something else right now, and you just want to make a comment on, you can open up public comment or just something general. Yes, I know. Online. Hearing none, JD, I haven't read it.
Good evening, JD King, Page County Engineer. The engineer update was sent out Tuesday morning, and there's some other stuff that you just got. Things on the agenda. Blades are out. We're hauling out with 4 trucks. Brake factory's working. The crew with the steer and the brush rake finished up on D Avenue and moved into town yesterday to drop off the steer and put the digging bucket on, and then we're moving down to Maple Avenue south of College Springs to start some pipe replacement work. We did a patch. Well, a contract outfit did a patch down at North Pearl intersection with J64. It was on J64. We hauled away some rubble from that. It was a 1-day job, and then actually rides pretty well. I even got a compliment from somebody who was called in the office.
Oh,
Good. And then mowing brush on J20, probably getting done with that pretty soon. We have a tandem in Omaha, and the second one went up today. We have the snow equipment off, all but 2 trucks, the older 2, that kind of set. And Monday, the Batwing tractor was in the shop. I saw some new blades on the mower and tires. Bridge construction has slowed on the Essex job. We're waiting on beams. They're scheduled the 2nd week of May. Originally, they were going to have 1 span of beams this week, 1 next week, 1 the 3rd week. That's not a good way to set beams, because that means the causeway across the river's out there for 3 weeks. It's better to have it there for just 1 week, less exposure to rain and the river flooding, moving it downstream. So they set beams last week on the 280th Street Bridge, so they're placing deck forms on that all week. Be 2-3 weeks for forming that, and then I would anticipate a deck pour sometime in May. What's coming along? We're also continuing the project development on the next bridge. There'll be a little right of way involved in that, one landowner. We had some counties had some bad news. There was a bridge investment program, a grant program put in before we put ours in February. This went in last fall, and the feds awarded that program, and Iowa's package was not funded. So this would be 2 times Iowa counties put in grant applications, and we're not successful. Maybe 3rd time's charm with Page County. We're also anticipating start some of the gravel connector rock haul work using ARPA funds. There's local truckers are hauling sand to Atlantic, as I understand, and they're looking for a backhaul. So we're going to haul some rock out of Montgomery County quarries, for quarries in Montgomery County for the northern segments of the ARPA connector roads. Questions for the engineer's update part?
What radio wiring are you replacing? What does that mean? On the truck?
The wire loom that handles the radio.
The whole,
Something like that.
How many ARPA dollars do we have allotted for this?
210,000. That was acted on the 4th of October. Kristen helped me find that.
how far into that did you do? You've done a few roads. How far?
We just did half of one road.
We haven't spent much money.
We spent what, 5,000 some dollars.
How much?
Correct. But we got through a pretty soft cycle, and it's time to start doing that. Moving on, the next item on the agenda is utility permits. It's the map with the orange in Buchanan Township. The orange is IMO work, and there's a little dab of green, which is a 2,800 foot of windstream fiber. So instead of working southeast of Shenandoah, IMO is now over in Buchanan Township. So we also talked to IMO, and they're going to get a hold of us when they start to plow fiber, and we're going to move rock from one side of the road away from where they're going to plow. So plow and we'll move it back.
Now that deal, is there places they're gonna plow in the road?
Yes.
And why is that? The bank's too hard, or why?
Well, there's not a lot of there's not a lot of right of way like along J55, although it's not on J55, this is on J53 and Vine and V Avenue.
When they did that, that's about the dam, and when there's other outlet, then they
Right.
plow the track and it settles, and then makes a big mess.
Right.
Any other way to do that? All this permit here is not very road yet, or not?
No, not done yet, no, the permits right here.
But that is what this is, the barrier of the road.
Yes.
Have you looked at where they're gonna do that, or, you know, which section?
So I know what they do.
The whole, there's not much J55 here, this is gravel right here, and
Right, correct.
Is there, so they can bury anywhere they want, if you guys, if the guidelines, you're gonna stay so close to the edge or something, or?
Usually they're along the shoulder.
I wanna make sure it isn't in the track. I don't, these are local people, they're probably not gonna
Right.
be wrong, just like, we had it kind of done wrong on another outfit.
Correct.
Any thoughts on this, guys?
No, I would just be nice just to make sure that they're doing it the right way.
We had a picture
Once they
that got
get-
sent out there on the 290th.
Definitely don't want to repeat as well.
Dug it right up the track and the road. A mess, right after we rocked it.
So I need a motion to approve these permits then.
I'll make a motion to approve permits.
Got a motion?
I'll second it.
Second. My only discussion is I really want to make sure they don't get the track that road. I don't know how you're gonna do that, but I don't, the track where you drive, I do not want to bury it in the track. And that's something's gonna make them swear the mess, right? How you gonna do that? You put that right in and give some feet.
I'll talk to TJ.
Yeah, make sure it's not on that track. And they're locals, so they'll be fine. Okay, well, I'm just worried about getting the track, that's all I'm worried about. Any other discussion on that? We good? Okay, we have motion and second. All those in favor of approving those permits, say aye. Aye. All right, motion carries.
Last item on the agenda is, kind of, the next thing with the Winterset Drive, which is a road in Spring Valley subdivision west along to, here's a little narrative I wrote up about it. Basically, it's a platted street in a subdivision that wasn't built when the subdivision was built originally. So the developer, who a Crawford of some type, I spoke with his daughter several times when I first came to the county. The developer was built the road, Elm Road and Deer Drive, or Elm Place and Deer Drive, and then they built lots or built out the subdivision, but Winterset Drive was never built. That's platted, but not built. So it's for sale again, and the realtor they called me up and said, well, there's no access to the parcel. I said, well, that's kind of true. There's access, the road is not built. But the original time, the road was built by the developer, and then the county took it in and we maintained it. So I see this as similar. I think the contractor, whoever's doing the site development work for the house or houses to go on this west parcel that they're trying to sell, needs to build that road. And then if requested, we'll incorporate it into our system. Like the two roads that are now already done, but I don't believe the county has the responsibility to build this road initially. It's also like, you consider it like an entrance to a field entrance. We permit those. It's a no cost permit, but the landlord is responsible for the entrance.
Who owns that?
Who owns what?
Who owns that? The drive parcel?
The drive is a platted street. Nobody owns it.
Nobody.
It's part of the subdivision.
It's just an access point.
Yes.
And I think when it was built, it wasn't, all of it was not maybe built to the county's specifications
Well,
originally.
I don't know,
We
it
were,
might be a little narrow, but it's
Yeah.
a road. It looks like a road. What the Winterset Drive is just not built. need to pipe against the elm place to flow the water across, and then there'll be some other drainage issues down as it gets towards the lot, but it's, you know, $5,000 to build a pretty nice lane right there. And I think that's just part of the cost of the house for that partial.
It's just not up to the county to build it.
That'd be
Yeah.
what my position on this. Anyway, just advising for the concern out there. Just for information, there's no action to be taken on anything. So, anything else for me?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Talk on the subject.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just brought you guys these. I apologize. I was running up and down the stairs trying to find where y'all are located, so I apologize. Not from the county. I'm Stephanie Bowden. I am the realtor on this property. What I gave you was just some copies of the plat, things like that. They kind of show, and it's highlighted in there. And then I also, the left side, I put a larger copy so you can read it. But basically, it just shows that initially, like in 1972 or something, the person that built the subdivision put in roads. That was one of them. They had to do the first section, or I can't remember how they worded it, but like they did the initial half, and then the county, the engineer at the time, then in turn said that they would take and do the other half. That was the agreement. And the roads got accepted by the county as a county road.
The ones that were built got accepted by the county. I don't believe that. I can remember back going out and meeting with the residents of Spring Valley, and at the time I was the auditor and had my laptop and taken minutes and everything else at that meeting. But the county accepted the ones that were already built, but they didn't agree to build anything else. That was not a county responsibility.
I guess I just find it curious, just because it accepted Winterset as one of those roads.
Yeah.
Within that paperwork.
But it wasn't gravelled. It wasn't anything out there. So no.
Okay.
That's the history that I remember.
Okay, and I'm just looking at the paperwork.
Yeah.
And because that's what I do, is paperwork.
Right.
And so basically then my client purchased the property from someone that had said it was platted, it was all set up, not your problem. Then my client, when she was going to be building out there, she contacted the county engineer, and it was a different county engineer.
Right, yeah.
You know, and he said, yeah, as soon as we know you're gonna put your house, then we'll get the road in. It was like, what? You know, that makes no sense, because the road, she knew where the road is, and then her driveway would be off of that road.
No.
But at this point, this property is landlocked. To know, I mean, it's kind of a shame, because my client purchased property that has no ability to get to it.
Yeah, that's you know, they accepted what was there to maintain, but I don't think they accepted anything else that wasn't done. Because I think there's another spot that's not done either. If I remember right.
There is, but it was never named. So if you look on there, it's the other end, but what happened is a person bought that corner, so they bought both lots. So the road had no purpose in being there because they owned it.
Yeah, but it wasn't done either, so yeah. That's my memory of it.
Okay.
And I don't think it's up to the county to do a subdivision, a road in the subdivision, if I'm correct.
So it's not, it's really not a road to subdivision, it's a road that's platted.
No, it's in the subdivision.
By the county.
Right.
And it leaves my person without a.
But it was platted by the individual who did this subdivision. I mean, the county accepted the plat, but yeah.
But even that road is listed. I'm
They just didn't finish it.
On a dirt road, if it was a dirt road, if you want to rock it, the rule is you pay for the rock, and the county takes it over after that. That's how it works on a dirt road. They just don't come rock it.
No.
If you, for the landowner, split the cost of the rock, then the county maintains it. going on. I mean, that would be,
And that's basically what happened, is that they did the roads down there and then. the county-
once you do it
So-
once, then the county takes,
If you read that, it reads that that's the way it was done. I mean, I don't mean to.
I haven't had a chance to read it.
But,
I'm just talking about gravel, you have to pay for it the first time. I don't know how this reads, I haven't read it yet. That's how that works in the general, if you want
yeah,
to
and
change a road, you have to pay the first time.
Something legally that we should have looked at.
Yeah, this writing. Cause I've never seen this, but
We can go back and, I don't know whether we can go back and find it in the minutes or not, but there was a big.
Stephanie, I'm here.
so,
Somebody's online.
Okay.
the landowner.
Okay.
Is actually on there.
Okay. Did you want to say something?
Jacob, you have to.
Well, are you talking to me?
Yes, go ahead. If you wanted to say something. Tell us who
Well,
you
I
are.
just wanted to say that I'm interpreting the original plating the same as Stephanie. And when it says that all the roads and streets were dedicated and accepted by Page County, Winterset Drive is specifically mentioned.
I think we need to take time to read this. I haven't had time to study all this, so we can sure look at it. Study it, maybe have the county attorney look at it, just see what all the facts are, 'cause I don't know. We have to look at it, but general rule, I do understand the first time generally you have to pay for things, and then the county takes it over. The general rule, I haven't read this. So.
Right, and I thoroughly agree with you that tends to be the way it is. It's just the way the paperwork reads and the way it's, was given to my client was basically that it had been taken care of. The initial portion had been done. And then nothing more was done because it was only access, that room was only access to her property.
Has there ever been two business properties? There ever been two? There's never been driveway.
Yeah, the road is about that much higher or better.
Please drive the
You can't like pull off of it safely. I mean, I've got an Armada and
Do you have a file, JD, on this, on Spring Valley at all?
Yes.
Do you have any mention of the minutes that we took? It would have been in the 90s. Okay.
I think we need to look into that.
Yeah, I think so.
We can do that. We can sure.
Thank you.
Study it and do that. I can put it all together.
We can,
I appreciate it. Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay. We can look into that. Good. Now we're to public health grant. Taking action on that is Richard on, or what's the situation there?
He sent out that email
Okay,
the other day. Did you read it?
I'm not sure if I did.
I thought maybe he wanted us to sign it, he'd be here.
Yeah, to go over.
I didn't-
Did you?
I read it, but I didn't.
Yeah. It was to, I remember, cooperate with the libraries, the schools for, and buy some helmets, for safety purposes, helmets and life vests.
Yeah. I can't.
The grant they're applying for, maybe I'll print that.
It's a grant they're applying for, yes, and it needs board approval. And I think they were gonna work with from the library.
Yeah, I didn't,
The
I would
library.
approve it.
That's fine if they're applying for their grant. That's okay.
Yeah.
They weren't asking for us for anything except approval to.
Board approval, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I would make a motion that we approve that.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay, a motion and a second to approve them applying for the public health grant. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye, okay, motion passes, item 12. Now, courthouse boiler, had a meeting. My days are all mixed up, yesterday morning. Those guys, they came and looked and They're putting together a bid, and I told them our next meeting's in the morning, next Thursday morning, the 1st of May. They're gonna try to have a bid. They are doing, they have people that the control side and the boiler. Okay, there's both sides of it. The change from Siemens Siemens is subcontracting out boilers.
Right.
So these are people that do that, they're doing other places in Granite. To change controls, they have to change controls, the little modules on all of them. If you want to get different control systems, which would be expensive, so they recommended sticking with, if we're pleased, and I think we are, right?
Right.
So I've heard, sticking with, they're gonna call Siemens, and they're gonna do a bid on a different brand, and them doing the, boilers, and then Siemens still being the one who controls. So they go, so there'll be a bid that, we'll have two bids to look at. The controls will both still be through Siemens, is what they're working on.
My only concern is that we received a bid from Siemens and that's been public information, so.
Right.
If they bid on it, they would probably have prior knowledge of the prior
I don't
bid,
know what to do about that.
so
Siemens knows what we're doing.
anyway, but I mean, this company could underbid because they've seen the Siemens bid,
Yeah, we'll give Siemens another chance to back up if they want.
so
I don't know. It's,
doesn't seem quite kosher.
I don't know, well, we don't have to buy either one of them. I also was told that the new boilers will have lots more maintenance and lots more issues. Our old boilers have been basically maintenance free, which is concerning. And I was also told, these guys are pretty handy. They said, actually, our boiler system is redundant, meaning one boiler to run the courthouse, is what if I understood them right.
We've always had two.
Right,
so-
and that's good. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, if one would fail, we're not in trouble. You have, it's a redundant system. So we're really nowhere near crisis, because they're redundant. So they are at the life expectancy range of what the guy that did the inspection said, but so
If I'm correct, the boilers were put in at the time, just before
93,
the
I
fire,
think.
yeah, before the fire,
around,
yeah, 6 years before the fire.
right, so we're
Or no.
looking at timing out on them possibly, but he acted like it could be several more years, it could be, I thought that if we lost one of them, then we would be at a half rate, like we'd be, if it's real cold, we can only get it up to 40 or something, That's not what I understood. He said one could run. Another issue could be when a boiler breaks, normally there's a big leak, but it could be a bigger leak of water if the pipe breaks down in the boiler. That would be your other negative. You could have water. You come in and find water in the basement, so that's another concern.
So
But-
basically, we need to have them come in and explain.
No, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
They want to come in there. And they work with Craig Hill all the time and very knowledgeable. Had a look and the maintenance guy was there, and so got to learn a little bit about boilers, so. That's all that's going on there. They're gonna put together some kind of a bid and they're working with Siemens, so. Siemens did tell me when we were working on this originally, that they would be happy to work with other contractors on the boilers. They're just hiring subcontractors. So it doesn't bother them at all. They're still doing their piece of the pie of controls. That's what they want to do. So that's all I know about that.
Okay.
We're done with that update. We'll see what happens next week. Now we're to the wind ordinance items, noise, safety, feeder depth, right away. So we can open up on that. What do you guys have any chance to look at all that?
Yeah, do you wanna just review our current
I've got that here.
on one on decibel, allowance, the other one, feeder line depths and then right of way setbacks, I guess, it's
Yeah.
those three things.
Feeder
Safety will kind
line.
of take care of itself as we. kind of-
Currently, their feeder lines, you flip that to page, say, section 4, number 5. Feeder line, did you find that? 4 feet right now, 48 inches, not less than 48 inches. Seen that a lot deeper on different things. Talked to a guy, and even this last week ran into him in Clarinda, that had a near accident in Taylor County with hitting, the line wasn't where it was supposed to be. It killed the entire van. It would have been terrible. And I'm not sure about the depth. I can't remember if it was as deep as they said or not, but anyway, it just happened right over there last year or two. I read some counties, I think Madison County had a proposed 10 feet deep. The tile machine can go 7 foot, I think, 7, 8 foot. You couldn't ask him about that, well, that'd be safer if you wouldn't hit the thing. So that's one option, so basically 4 to 10 feet, I would say, or somewhere in that range.
I saw,
The 48 inches is where almost all the tiles were.
yeah, I found on Gage, Nebraska, their wind ordinance, Gage County, Nebraska, they specified a minimum of 6 foot.
Yeah.
deep. So, and it had to stay below the tile line.
That's what you're trying to get at there.
And it could go up to 10 foot,
Yeah,
but
there, yeah, so it needs to be below the tower line, it needs to be, we can't easily hit it, and it's gotta be finding. He was so upset that it was nowhere where it was supposed to be, and nobody could find it, they couldn't even find the crazy thing they buried not a year ago, very recently, so.
and you say tile usually a 7 foot or?
No, I said the tile machine, I think, can dig about that deep,
Okay,
so if you get below that, they can't hit it,
yeah.
they just can't hit it.
What do they usually tile at? I don't.
4 or 5 foot normal, I mean, if you get in a spot, you gotta think about if you build terraces someday,
So if you had a
You
minimum
move-
of 6 foot,
you might cut 4 foot.
Yeah.
And then be below that another. Cause you move the hill, you dug the hill off, so.
Okay.
I don't know, I'd say 6 to 10 feet. Somewhere in that ballpark, you gotta get below everything.
yeah,
There's a lot of power on those lines. I mean, unbelievable amount of electricity. So, I don't know, that's what I read. Yeah, any thoughts,
do you
Judy?
have anybody that?
I don't, I guess I'm concerned about it being way overkill. You know, with most of them are 48 inches deep, and if your tile line is that 6 to 10 feet length seems really a lot.
Well, 4 foot's not very deep for a humongous power line.
Yeah.
I bury water lines 4 or 5 foot deep myself. That's why I bury my 1-inch water line in my hydrants 4 or 5 foot deep in the crosswalk. So 4 foot, I would say, instead of being, I think it's light. I don't think that's that deep to bury something. I mean, my skid loader trencher can dig 4 foot deep. We're not talking about very deep here. And they're not burying a phone wire either. We're talking about a major amount of electricity going through there.
Well, I agree, it has to be below tile. I think that's,
And what is tile?
he said like.
Generally, it's 4 or 5
4
foot,
to 5
maybe 6, just depends if you're going on a hill and you have to get fall. You go, I think they can dig around up to 7 foot to get fall, and you know, you gotta think about building terraces. Cause you cut the hillside to build a terrace, you lose several feet in that process. Big thing is, we don't want anybody hitting this thing. So that's the whole purpose of it, and then roads, I don't know if we have in our ordinance, but I read other ordinances. And I think the pipeline's gonna bore under the roads, part of what they're saying they're gonna do, but they should bore under our roads, not trench through them.
Yep.
Because it's make a mess of our road trenching through it, so the roads need to be bored under our right of way, so they don't screw it up.
Is there a requirement on those, JD? The depth?
When they go under a road or something, what do we require? You bore understand that.
Yeah. Utility permit has minimum cover and utility permit 48 inches for electric. But
That's not electric cable like this.
normal.
Yeah, that's not the
Not high power,
unbelievable megawatts coming through there, that's a Milton excavator, so. So,
I just looked at it, and with that, and they're never gonna decrease the voltage that's coming through
yeah,
there. It would always be an increase like on the year on the same time.
yeah, I don't feel like 48 inches is a, like we're going way past, way too deep, like that I can dig. My little things I bury that deep, and I'm burying a little bitty wire, a little water line, just to give a little cross line, all I'm doing, so. With my small trencher and my skid loader, so. I'd say,
Like 6 to 7 feet.
I don't know, somewhere in there, we need to. Maybe think about that,
well, at the minimum, I would say 6 feet,
yeah,
at the minimum. But, you know, like I said, I've read other places too, about 10 feet.
mhm.
Is that what you said,
That's-
Gage, Nebraska was?
No, Gage, theirs is 6 feet.
6 feet.
But it has to stay below the tile line, so wherever that tile line is, they've got
Yeah,
to
I
be
can do-
below it. So if the tile line is at
6 feet.
6
gotta
feet,
go
they gotta be
7.
underneath that even.
And you need to
so-
be,
But it is a minimum, so it has to be at least 6 foot.
and that's where you need dirt between the two, you don't just run one on top of the other, it has to be, you know. So, yeah,
Maybe 6 feet.
somewhere in that ballpark, so, and I really like the fact nobody can hit it at 10 feet. You can't hardly screw up and hit it, so. And we need some kind of a wire on there, tracer wire, as they call it, that is easily located. And we probably need somebody to go out and make them pay for it,
I
to
think
watch and
that's-
make sure they do it.
Yeah.
Because contractors, even if the people promise you it's the salesman, the contractors might say, well, it's easier to do this, so let's just do this, and they bury it. Well, how are you gonna know what they did? So we probably need somebody to keep an eye on that to make sure it's done right. So maybe build that into it, where we have somebody go out and document that it's been done right depth, keep everybody safe. And just, and locatable, because it was not where it was supposed to be, what I was told in Taylor County. It was not where they said, it wasn't where we're gonna plan, you can find it. It was, all screwed up, so.
Do they have to notify you of deviations from the original plan for range wires? Like, is that in the initial application where they would have to come around and they'll be very transparent about that?
Well, if we build in there, if they have to, we have to inspect the depth, I guess we would also know where the location was. I mean, we would know exactly, so if they changed it, we would know. So we need to
Yeah,
have
I think
something
I
there.
read, well, in this Gage one, I think, I don't remember exactly. But they did require them to do topography map of like the area once it's in, and it has to be with everything, buildings, everything located in the proper
That's a
location.
good idea.
Yep, and.
Even when I
they have
bury
to
things,
turn
I
that-
draw a
yeah.
map where I buried it.
Before they start digging, they have to turn in, this is what we're doing, this is where it's going. And they can't, they should be researching that before they ever start digging in the ground,
Mhm. So we need a
but, yeah, so I mean, that, to me,
inspector and a map.
when we get to talking about safety stuff, I think that's important.
Yeah. Inspector map. Does that cover it? Depth? Have some inspector, a map, and tracer wire.
And I guess. What are your guys' thoughts on, so I know last week we didn't really make any motions. I would like to get this in record,
Kind of on the record as we go.
yeah, and
And
at least some, official motion that we decided on certain things. Now, we can, when we get time to go back to do the ordinance, at least we can look back and find that in minutes.
Once we have these things decided, then we need to give this thing to a lawyer, like I said, and let him
Right.
take our numbers and build it into this thing, where it all is kosher with itself, or it all makes sense. So.
But I would just like to make sure that
Just
we
make a
get,
simple motion just to put it on the table, to have it on the record. That we agree on something, I don't know.
yeah, that we agreed on, if we can agree on 6 to 10
There's a
foot.
Robert Rule question, can we make it, it's not an ordinance, not a resolution, can we make a simple motion here to put it on the record? So they know, Judy, simple motion, like we just put it
That
in
we
the record.
agree.
I don't know that we could just put it in there, just say you're putting it in
To
there.
put it in the record that we want this on.
Whatever changes we make, you're just putting in there.
We're just kind of, as we go, we're making a record of what we're talking about. Because we have to do it all again whenever we,
There's nothing that says you can't put more in the minutes.
right, yeah. We just say put this, because it's an actual kind of a consensus, it's kind of like voting.
But I don't,
I
I
just-
just want to vote on it because you might change it, so. I mean, I would just say that this is what we had agreed to
Agreed to.
as we were going through discussing.
Okay. Well, we agreed last week to a mile for the property line, that can be waived,
For non,
right? And then a 3
for
foot.
non-participating.
From that,
Well, basically, the participators are gonna waive it, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but that's what it says for non-participating. That's when we changed it.
So a mile for the property.
We also did 300 feet tall.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe just put that in the record. So just for the record, we agreed unanimously, 1 mile setback from the property line. And 300-foot tip height.
Turbine, yep. Tip of the blade.
Tip of the blade, height
base.
limit.
Height limit, yep.
Okay, and then on this, what do we want to do? Do we have an agreement there? Do we want to? I'm gonna go more than less, just in light of safety. I don't want to make it hurt.
Yeah, can we agree that let's just have a range of 6 to 10 feet for right now, and when we know that we're gonna play around in there somewhere in that range
We can study a little more.
and study it a little more,
Fine.
and maybe,
And then I want.
I mean, I would say a minimum of 6 feet.
Would you say Tyree go for the minimum of 6 feet as well?
No, they can dig, I think, better than 6 feet, 6, 7 feet, that's what they can dig. With a normal tower machine. So we're trying to get below that, so you can't hit it.
So is there a huge cost difference in enforcing the 10-foot versus the 6-foot for them to?
Anytime you go deeper, it probably costs more, but
What's the cost of bacon?
that's right, when you can't. We're not talking about burying a little bitty wire, we're talking about burying
Not like a handful wire.
unbelievable electricity going through it.
Somebody wants to come here and shine a light, they're limited to know where they can go.
And it does limit you, that's true. But
What's the amount of erosion that you have on your roads throughout the year?
erosion, and I'm also concerned, because you know, people set up their own farms, and if they understand that that's screwing up their tile abilities, that's kind of on them. But for our road situation, something with that much electricity, we gotta think about erosion in the ditch, we gotta think about digging out and replacing something. We don't want to be within inches of this crazy thing, and hit it with a backhoe, or hit it, the county guys get hurt, so. We do need to be deeper on our right of way, that is what we are in control of. So we do need this major electricity to be deeper. And very located. So I agree with that, and ditches erode.
Yeah.
The deeper we go, the better.
So listening to that, I mean, I would say 10 foot then,
Let's make it 10 foot.
and
And the right of way where we care. And we don't want to hurt anybody on their own ground, but that's kind of there. So that's what I read in a couple other ordinances that in the safety section was 10 feet. So I'm okay with that.
yeah, I'd be fine with that too.
We can just march on duty, what do you think?
Whatever you guys think is fine.
Okay, we'll kind of move there, and we'll just check into it a little bit, we'll just take input. Okay. Let's see, so what are we up to now? The noise? And we want to have somebody have a wire to locate that thing.
Did anybody else want to talk about?
Yeah, anybody else want to say about
Any more comments on the depth of the?
That's all right.
Okay, no, that's good.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you just want to make sure protect the county, it's in your county, you guys.
Yep.
know. Then you don't have erosion, like you said, you don't have to worry about anything being done in the future, but protect yourself now. Don't put yourself in that position.
Mhm.
I'll just make another comment. A house I lived in many years ago, the sewer line out of the basement went off down a hill. And it was buried 15 feet up by the house.
Mhm.
And over the years, that hillside
Changes.
eroded away. We hit it with a plow. And it's all up.
Yeah. No, things change, there's a pipeline. What did that estimate tell me about that? They had, over the years, came up and it's eroded. It's gonna keep, they want to let them farm here because they're scared they're gonna get it. And it was buried, really deep. So erosion is real and hillsides change.
And it's been harder.
Yeah, that, I'm trying to remember that. It's so shallow now that they won't even let them put anything in the ground. Even-
And we're concerned about the wind turbine by that. Because they didn't tell me, I talked with the lady, and she said one of those blades falls off, it's that other one, she said you've got an explosion.
Yeah,
And
sure.
thank you for where we should go to the problem.
Yeah,
That's the petroleum line that.
it's not gonna get deep. The thing, wherever if you start, it's not gonna make itself,
Way up.
everything's 4 feet. And I vary lots of things 4 feet with my, I said very simple little things with skid loaders, so we're not talking about, that's not very deep, so. Okay. Well, we got that covered, anything else?
I have a question. What's the minimum that the residential area would have to bury their cable lines and their electricity lines per Mid-American Energy or per the city?
I don't know.
Is it like a minimum of 4 feet? 6 feet?
Probably.
Think about it, if you have a residential, a citizen having to do that, then you would expect that a commercial or industrial would have what, a 3-fold, at least, you know, a 2-fold. So really a minimum of your 10 feet is very reasonable.
Yeah.
Now, we're not, it's something totally different than somebody burying their own stuff on their place. Very different.
Think about the 3-fold effect of that.
Right, I can understand that, so. All right, we'll move forward on 10 feet. So we have, next thing, the noise decibels. Any thoughts on that? Any studying on that?
Everything that I saw was, we wanted to make sure they stayed under 50 decibels, but, I did find ideal for them would be 35 to 40.
Right. And there's different kinds of.
And that's at a half mile away. With our mile setback,
That might
they
be
said anything under 40 would be very hard to hear at a mile. If you're truly a mile away.
It probably is gonna protect itself.
Yeah, would protect
It kind of
itself.
does what it's
Now,
supposed to do, right?
there is some exceptions to if there's a storm or something and it causes the turbine to spin faster, it could be at a higher decibel.
Trying to find that section, but I remember not liking about that wording.
It's on section 3, number 10.
It says during normal operating conditions, we're allowing basically if the wind's blowing a little harder, it doesn't count. So I don't know if I like that.
Most of the ones I've seen have said around 50.
I can
The ones
add
that I was reading.
that.
Yeah.
We live over in Taylor County. There's 42 wind turbines that are there. I can see 32 from my house. The closest one I'm estimating is 1 mile away. On certain conditions, the wind is just right, I can hear those things. And it's like,
Conditions matter with the low ceiling and moisture and all that there. Well, there's some pretty big write-ups on this, which we could put in our ordinance that are, you're maybe a little lower decibel, but there's a lot of different kinds of noise. There's and I'm not an expert on this at all, but
we need to address the low frequency.
Yeah. That's one, the infrasound and the,
Yeah.
can't think of it, the Lumax scale, all these things. I don't have that one in front of me. Well, I guess I kind of do. One I read here, the Madison County had, can I see 40 decimal Lumax? This is all kind of science stuff. Basically, other people have worked all this out, the different kinds of sound and infrasound. And our mile is probably going to do all this for us. But we can go ahead and put it in writing, but if it happens to not, that we've not done that to somebody. So low frequency noise, they have all this spelled out, like in there's several that do now. I don't have all my different ordinances right now, but I kind of just say on that, which I've had all these so many times, pick the best written one that seems the most complete. And that's science, that's getting scientific stuff there.
The other thing, when it comes time to that, we need to be able to, I don't know if you have, I don't think we'd want the wind company in charge of, or the energy company in charge of what the decibels are. If there's a complaint, or if they're telling us, these are 40 and they're actually, I think we need an independent person now checking. Yeah. Those decibels sounds.
Some of the counties I read had a fund set up, that's when we get to funds, where they keep so much money in a bank account here that can be handled for those kind of things, like when we have to go out and do a study.
Yeah.
And then if whatever, it's up to them to, they know that we're gonna, if we have to check on it, then it's not gonna cost us. to make sure they're abiding. So. I don't know, I'm good with it. Yeah, go ahead, Sam, when you're done.
I was gonna say some of the things that are across the World Health Organization, the Acoustic Ecology Institution, both agree that sound levels should be 30 decibels, should be less than 30 decibels during sleeping periods, especially for children's health. And they said even adults, health effects are starting to show themselves at 32 decibels, which is basically 10 to 20 different than the level it takes, 10 to 20 decibels lower than what it takes to wake you up. So you're not even conscious of what's going on. There was another one by the International Standards Organization, and they set their limits lower in rural areas down to 25 decibels from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And part of that was based on the fact of background noise and when these measurements are taken of what the standards should be, because background levels are present, you know, at all times, but you've got to watch when you take it so it's not picking up just intermittent things. Mm-hmm. It has to reflect the true times, and they also suggested that when regulations or limits are being set, that you look at how the industry, whatever numbers you're picking, how they determine their measurement, because a lot of them use an average over 12 hours to get their readings for ambient noise. And it really gives you a better idea if you go hourly or up to 3 hours versus the 12-hour, because it kind of stretches it out and waters it down per se. You know, and of course they also said the atmospheric effects change every day, upwind versus downwind, things like that. And I think we've all learned that we know, unfortunately, the developers of the turbines are not going to look out for whether they're placing this upwind or downwind from somebody's residence. Recently, they submit things that don't even have all the houses in there, let alone whether they're upwind or downwind. So I just want you to keep in mind that as you set these, can we add in some parameters for monitoring and penalties when those levels are out of compliance? And I did read, there are several now. Initial ordinances didn't really set up a complete department fund per se, but more and more that are revising are adding that in there. I know a couple counties have one specifically for the noise complaints, where if they have to go out and investigate, the money comes from that fund for anybody they have to send out there. But then if they have to hire somebody, it has to be somebody completely independent of the turbine company or the county, and they have to look at the credentials and really make this work. So I just ask that whenever we set that we hold them to it. That's all. Rules aren't any good if nobody's monitoring whether you're following them.
Well, a good fence makes a good neighbor.
There's that.
I haven't do that. Spent many years first shift on an NSK. You like to begin them 7 a.m. So if we're going to make them be quiet at night, I sleep during the day.
Can I just talk to the limit from the property line or from the residence? Currently it's residence, right?
Yeah.
I think
and this says, well, like how this one was worded, it was at the nearest residence of a non-participating landowner. Doesn't say anything about property. So on this, this particular ordinance, they had a 55 decibel limit, but it could only be that for 10 minutes and in length. And then they had between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., they were required to be at 37 decibels or less. And then during the daytime, they could not exceed over 40 decibels. at the house, at the non-participating residence.
And that doesn't take into account people owning land,
Right,
they might wanna build on. Oh, you
Right.
have 80 acres, you might consider,
yep,
which our setback is gonna, we're kind of. One and the other will work together here, I mean, it will.
yep.
But if it happens to be a mile, the conditions are wrong, or it's causing a problem, then make sure they don't cause a problem. A status quo should always take precedent. The way it is, so,
And this one had a stipulation that after the completion of, each turbine was put in, within 1 year, the holder of the special permit, which would be I suppose the company that has the permit for the turbine, would be required to have testing done to be completed by a licensed independent acoustic engineer and pay for that, and the results will be forwarded to the county board of supervisors and kept on record for future, if there's future issues or whatever, so they would have that baseline. So they would have 1 year to get that tested and put on record of what it was for decibels, which I think is a good idea.
Is this all Gage County?
It's Gage County, yeah, that was,
said what Kim said about the different. I don't know much about sound, decibels and all that, but I know that I was down at a friend of mine in Missouri who owns the land down there and has turbines about a half mile from his house. And he has certain days, really nice home. He has to go to the basement certain days, because it's not maybe the noise, is that there's some kind of a pulse that comes off of it that just drives him crazy. So those things are, we've got to understand that and make sure that doesn't happen to somebody. And not reinvent the wheel, find those numbers that are solid numbers that make sense of that, put that in there and make sure that doesn't happen. I don't know what that is, 35 decibels or whatever, 30, I mean, whatever that number is, we need to just spell that out in scientific terms, but it can't happen.
That would be the input sound.
And the input sound is that you can't hear it, no,
You not hear it.
no,
Some of those frequencies,
no, listen.
feel like that.
He's got turbines about a half a mile from his house. Let's see, there's the way his house lays. He's half a mile away, but elevation changes a lot. So he's a lot more in line with the turbine. And it just, certain days and certain conditions cause very strange or very not good things to happen in this place.
If you can imagine around your house, how they did like your whole area with Wi-Fi, this is the same principle for winter, right? Everything that is in that elevation of below is going to have that bubble around it that's going to receive that signal. It's going to amplify it in multiple directions as well.
Right. So just gotta make sure we have some stipulations in there to make sure everybody's safe and there's nobody being negatively affected in their home. So, or don't lose any rights, so. Okay. What do you want to do then? I don't know the correct decimal level. We just need to base it on sound studies, I guess.
Whatever level you decide on, you gotta realize that is a constant.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a track around in the field that's gonna be
Going.
on,
Right.
or a bin dryer running, for a few weeks in the fall, and then that's done. These wind turbines are constant. Yes.
I don't have Gage counties in front of me. They put that together very recently. Maybe we should study that pretty hard and see how good it could be.
Yeah, this was, I think, 2021.
Yeah, it's done pretty recently.
So it's, yeah.
Do they have wind turbines currently?
I don't know if they do or not. No, wouldn't that be
If
accurate?
they learn from it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, if they've redone it or whatever.
there is, and I think maybe 14, they start with some, and then they write another ordinance, so they learn from the complaints and
Right.
issues being caused on neighbors. Yeah,
There was some county in Nebraska that had a setback much greater than 1 mile.
yeah,
3 miles,
Don't-
be close, you're right.
you know, I was reading in here, you know, we did the mile, in our ordinance we have currently, the parks get a mile. If they find I read this right. Something about a nest, basically, it's a mile. So if we can give an eagle's nest a mile, we're acting inside of what we already have. I mean, we're just giving the same treatment to somebody who owns land in Page County that doesn't want to be subjected to this harm, possible harm and different things. So,
You know, and since we're basing setbacks to property line, does it make sense to keep noise decibel to property line also?
I think-
Just for consistency. That way you protect your, so like you said, somebody else wants to build on your property here instead of where you are, then they're
what I remember, and I need to print it again, but what I remember from our zoning we have in Page County for industrial things, I think that I have in front of me. Things are supposed to be inaudible, things are supposed to happen from wherever that district is drawn, like from that line, if I remember correctly. Something industrial of that nature, so I need to read that again. I think that's been in place a long time in Page County, so I need to reread that. So I think that makes sense. So there we go. We need to find whatever is the acceptable decimal for the property. Okay. You got a number you want to do, Todd? I don't.
I would cap it at 50 decibels, no louder. But I think the ideal is somewhere between 30 and 40.
If the study's saying I need to
yeah.
use 30 or 35, that messes up sleep most likely. Just, again, our mile setback is probably gonna take care of this, we might as well have it right in both ways. So.
And some of these were surveyed though with setbacks at a mile and a half, so they're still saying that
It could happen.
35.
Yeah, and I did read somewhere that it was some study by, I'll mess up his name, Wabra Foundation, and they were recommending a distance of 1.86 miles to avoid serious health effects from the noise.
Well, maybe just put 30 decibels in the property line.
And yeah, and they were saying, you know, the background noise at 30 decibels at a mile distance, they said that this is from GE Global Research. They said that at a mile distance at 30 decibels, background noise is not detected for the most part now, depending on the wind in the right direction and everything.
But you never know.
Coming full, so. Right, I mean, it's, you know, you're gonna hear, like, you know, there's days I hear the very harvest.
You hear what?
That's, yeah, I'm Easter Shannon, I can hear it, you know, from,
What do you hear?
at 6 p.m., the Farragut Fire Whistle is going off at 6 p.m. If the
wind's in the right, yeah.
You know, so I mean, you can hear stuff a long ways away,
So
but.
you can't prevent that.
Right,
Yeah.
and so, I mean.
Activate if they have a problem. So they could measure this happening for a period of time and they can't sleep, but then there's a problem.
And I also think that capping the height at 300 feet and the size of the turbine is gonna make a difference on how much it generates and what the speed is and everything else, how loud it's gonna be.
How far it can go.
Right, and so. I mean,
regarding substation and the power bases, are there going to be different kind of decibel setbacks from those bases versus the actual turbines? Because there is noise generated. Like if you look at solar farms.
by the substation, you think there's?
Yeah, I mean, the amount of things that come from inverters and solar farms is immense. So is there going to be any kind of difference? Or is it going to?
We can just read our zone, we can go back and read our own zoning we have right now, because it,
Because they've already put a substation in.
yeah, but our zoning talks about noise with things like that.
Yeah.
Because the frequencies there may not necessarily be the ones that we're hearing, as well as the low frequencies that they're feeling and the energy is coming off. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the substation piece of it.
Isn't that a substation that we have out here?
That's the one that they put in there by Northborough.
No, out here on the Highway 71. Isn't that a substation? It's right there by houses and stuff.
Well, if it doesn't have a problem, we'll be upset.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
so nothing to be upset about. We just want to make sure. I do know in Missouri, where I come from, this is a common problem. The noise is a common problem. So we need to just make sure we're causing people harm.
And on our current ordinance, what did you say it said?
It says
55 decibels
55.
under normal.
Should not exceed 55
5 decibels. Okay.
for any period of time during normal operating conditions.
Okay.
What period of time is?
For any period of time.
If I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, so 55 is a limit. Oh, well, we could just simply drop that number.
Drop that to 45 as a limit.
You're hearing things that you can't sleep past 35.
Well, at night, I mean, you could have
I mean, 35,
constantly.
I mean, they can't exceed it. It shouldn't be difficult, maybe, I don't think, we have a pretty big setbacks, and I think they work together.
I would agree with that 45, but you know, not to exceed 45. With the mile
And-
setback.
And go from the property line and not the residential.
Yeah.
Really that detrimental to the company to have it wide out, you want to see down to Sunday down, because if you think about it, sometimes you look south, I can 100 of them from my house. And there will be days during the day where they're idle all day. So what's the difference if they run during the day and they sit idle at night?
I certainly have no clue on how these operate.
Yeah, I don't.
I think we're trying to
because
kind
I've
of,
gone by and seen them not operate all day.
Yeah. and I guess what we're trying to do is limit everything, and we really don't know a lot about all of this. So I guess I'm a little confused about
I
it.
know
There's conflicting,
what I've heard from people that
Information
have
on it.
been around. The people that live close by them do not have very good things to say.
I know, I was at somebody's
Yeah.
house and they live in Page County, but they have,
Right.
I was surprised when I was there and saw how close the ones are in Taylor County. And they said that sometimes they can't even be out on their porch because of the noise. But again, we can't change the weather or the wind or anything like that, so.
What they would have to do is limit their. When I've been around, you hear them gear down, the harder the wind blows, they'll gear down. They get, it's like a 10-speed bike, you make more power, because there's more wind, you gear down, your gearbox switching to third. They would just have to run the machine in a way that didn't make over so much noise. If it's a certain condition, they would have to back it off. That's all we're doing, we're setting how much noise can get away from to somebody else. Now, if you sign up, you don't care about that noise, we're dealing with that, but if somebody doesn't, then it's not right. So I don't know, what's Gage County?
One just a second. I already got it.
I think we need to get copies of Gage better.
Yeah, I've read Madison,
Yeah.
Ford County, all kinds of things.
So they have, no commercial wind energy shall exceed 40 decibels during daytime hours
That's what I have.
and 37 decibels at nighttime hours, 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. That's from the nearest resident of a non-participating property.
Does it mention low frequency noise? ILFN. They did mention that. I have that here in this one, this is the Madison County.
They talk about 55 decibel, but that's only for a 10-minute length. I mean, it shouldn't run more than that.
I like the way that says, maybe we can just add that what they have here, should not exceed 60, and this number means nothing to us because we don't know what we're talking about. But 60 dBCH right into the 40 you just read in there, but it says this is infrasound. There's something to do with infrasound. There's a different kind, it's DBC versus DBA, it's a different kind of noise. Low frequency noise, It's a different thing. So we need to, I'm sure they've studied this, map this out. So I guess we need to look at this a little more and find the correct levels.
What were the night hours?
10 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Like you said though, that if people sleep during the day, I mean, I don't know how you don't just make it, here it is.
Yeah.
Make from the property line, make whatever is considered to be safe and not destructive, and move on. That's what they have here. They said this cannot happen to the property line. At any time, day or night, cannot exceed the above specified limits at any point along the non-participating property line. So it's just trying to, they read no, or it's trying to fully protect exposed residents.
So we can consider 2 levels, 1 for.
Well, there's different kinds of noise. Yeah, that's what they did here. They did 40 and 60 of the 2 different kinds of noise. LMAX.
This also, they recommend doing noise modeling and doing it for all 4 seasons.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Because winter can be a lot
I
worse.
guess you would test, during the winter time, you test during spring, test during summer, test during fall, because the atmosphere would change.
It does. That's what I've been told.
You get snow cover down on the ground, it sounds just gonna.
And a low clouds here, just pounds me, so. Well, we need to kind of put a couple of these together, I think, join them together. That makes sense to me. There's a little bit here that is on there. I'm good in that area, that zone of. Information on it. You good there?
Yeah.
That ballpark?
I think we're in the ballpark. We just gotta do some more digging and.
Have the correct writing. Our current one, not to exceed 55, I think is not adequate to protect people. So we'll adjust that a little bit, okay. What's our next one?
What did you decide on?
And what are we, consensus? You want to just take not to exceed 40 dBA? This is all the scientific stuff. Do you want to put this in writing right now or not? This part, you want to work it? Because this is kind of challenging.
I would just say we kind of agreed that we want to definitely cap it at 40 decibels, and then that'll be reevaluated when we get to time to start putting ordinance together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we'll have to just take it.
Because I think that's
Gage County with a little bit of this one mixed in, I think. Would be, we gotta get the wording and then get it, let me put all this stuff to an attorney to make sure it's all done right. That sounds good to me. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Got safety and right of way. Safety. Right of way it talks about. So be set back from the public right away at a distance of no less than 1.1 times the total height.
And that's what I found. And most of them was about.
I would like to have a shadow flicker and ice throw. There is no way that can be allowed to go on the road.
Yeah.
Cause a flicker, that would not be,
I don't think we addressed those in here, do we?
Shadow flicker,
I don't think there is anything wrong.
I don't think we're gonna hang in ours.
Just, they have modeling, there's qualified third parties that read this, they could do modeling software where they put them. I just wanna make sure on the right away, there is not a throw effect from a wind turbine that hurts, cause somebody to have issues driving. That's
most of the things with the shadow flicker I've seen is 30 hours per year.
Yeah.
They cannot exceed that.
But on a road, we don't have any.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you keep track of it?
That's just what it said in this one. 30 hours per year.
Well, that's,
That doesn't even make sense.
what this
Or
says.
more than 30 minutes per day. You're not allowed.
No amount of shadow flicker may fall on or in a non-participating landowner's property. So we just need to say, that's fine for a non-participant, which I doubt at a mile that would happen. But we need to say on a right of way, no amount of shadow flicker may fall on or in the public right of way. I mean, we just need to keep it all public right of way.
Yeah.
I agree, that's scary, you're driving down the road.
That is something we directly do have the right of way in Page County.
Big shadow.
So I think we could, I think that would cover a right of way situation pretty easily. There's no amount of, and they should understand that. I would think they would want to do that. Okay. So no shadow flicker on the right of way. I don't know.
How about setback from the public right of way?
1.1 what it is. Times height.
1 times the height.
Mm-hmm.
That's not very much.
So there's 500 foot, well, it'd be 300 foot, we'd be 330 foot. Or 300, yeah, 1.1, 330. So, that's not very far, it's 100 yards. For something pretty big, but the shadow flicker, again, this is gonna cross over to itself. If shadow flicker is not allowed on the road, which it shouldn't be. That I don't think at 300 foot, they're gonna be able to do that. Cause you can't put turbine that close to the road, I don't think. And not put shadow flicker on the road. Certain times of the day, that could be very dangerous. So.
You know, there's a shadow towards the house. There's three of them right across the road from that rental, so they're on that road right.
Right, well, that's where it says there's 0 on non-participating landowner's property, so that's fine, but I think our mile would probably. And we can say the same word twice, but fine, it will back itself up there, it will just keep that from happening. So, basically, right away, no shadow flicker. Non-participating landowner, no shadow flicker. Those two things we worded about the same, I think. Anything else with that? Do you guys agree on that? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I was just reading this one.
What's the safety, Jason? Jacob, what's the safety that we were going to discuss?
I don't know. I think that was tied to the feeder line.
That's what I wondered.
I think those
It's tied to it.
The
Well,
feeder lines.
Yeah, and then I've got, so, I mean, a lot of it's common sense stuff,
Oh, they're terrible.
but,
The wiring. It's number 12 on.
There was a big section on safety.
Yeah. Number 12 on section 4.
they need to be equipped with manual and automated controls to limit rotation speed and rotator blades so it does not exceed the design limit of the rotor.
Mm-hmm. So it didn't run away. They might already have that. That's a good idea. They should already have it.
There should be placards on all of them, says warning high voltage, manufacturer's name, operator's name, emergency contacts, emergency shutdown procedures.
That's appropriate visible warning signage.
Yeah, we have,
So that's basically covered.
All has to be grounded. Has to be able to
Yeah.
sustain 90-mile-an-hour winds.
Not even looked at it, based on.
But yeah,
can you can blow it? It's been there a long time. The wind can blow, yeah.
we took the plains of Nebraska versus.
There's gotta be a fence around it.
Is there anything with the petroleum line on safety?
No, it's not.
Well, it kind of covers, so they have to.
We know we give runway as a setback. Maybe there should be one for those. And a lot of ordinance I read, the safety section is where they included the depth of the feeder lines, is in the safety section, I'm getting that. Or the keep, you know.
And it does mention the wiring shall be underground.
And there's that number 12 where it says, they've identified the migratory flyways and nesting areas of the birds and bats and endangered species. And none of them is within 1 mile.
Yeah, that goes back to number. Yeah.
Number 12.
Number 12 in the original, yeah.
So you see what I'm saying?
I saw that
A
earlier.
mile is not
Yeah.
excessive if a bat's getting a mile.
No. Yeah.
So. Let's see, didn't know what we're talking about here.
Is there ever anything in there that says the developer or the company has to notify like owners of the petroleum line and things like that, and show written proof?
They do, and they haven't turned in the bill.
I don't know if that's in the ordinance.
I mean, I know the 95% that they have to submit and pay for a permit to have that on their further.
I wonder if that should be in ours and say
But that's why
prior to blah, blah, blah.
I have a lady that doesn't seem like it's hard enough for me. Yeah, close to that.
Would Page County require that any records be recorded, documented, and acknowledged?
You know, the fires, and I've myself seen, I'm just down in south of Blanford, maybe it's 2 years ago, saw a lake road stuck in the field. A couple years ago, I don't remember seeing anything on the news about that. It was pretty amazing. You know that the two bins and there, not one. Then you look at the cornfield, there it lays, gigantic over there, so.
It would require viruses, the pressure and the server, that's.
I would think they would do that anyway, but yeah, that could set the world on fire, if it happened at the wrong time of year. Yeah, fire suppression is a good one for safety. A fire suppression system. We can add that. They might already have that in there, just make sure they do that. Because that could set a lot of things on fire in a hurry.
Maybe covers so many things, I don't know.
Well, there's something that's just so out of the normal realm of what we're talking about. Yeah, Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, the people online can't hear me talking here. Thanks, Corey. If anybody has a clear comment, stand up, and make it to the microphone so people can hear that are attending by Zoom. Sorry about that. Okay. Well, I think we can have fire suppression. I've seen that wording in the safety section.
Yeah, and they, on here, they're required to meet with the local fire departments and review safety measures.
I don't know if this comes under safety or not, but are there any parameters for when a blade falls off into a field or something like that? Who cleans up? Who's held accountable for it? I read an article the other day that a blade had just disintegrated over time and shattered, and it was left in this pasture, and those shards are horrible. I mean, you can't have your cattle out there. I don't know how you clean that up. So I don't know if there's anything, I don't know if that's a safety issue or somewhere else, but just wanted to mention somebody has to be responsible for that.
If any part of it would be in the right of it,
yeah,
then they'd be responsible for cleaning it up. If it's on somebody's private land,
then it comes back to the landowner.
Now,
they agreed to do it. So.
In this one, they're talking about, so anything that would contaminate the ground. So they have a lot of oil with them. So if there's oil seepage, they're required to clean that up to mitigate that.
But the shards and things, I guess, would stop if they're a mile from non-participating, that wouldn't get onto somebody else's pasture.
Sure.
Yeah, so, okay. Yeah, that's a scary picture.
Anything else in the safety category?
I don't.
Good. So what do you want to say there? Help for Kristen next. No shadow flicker. Do we have a consensus? There's no shadow flicker on the right of way.
Yes. Didn't you say that would kind of take care of the 330 feet that would take care of that?
No.
With the mile.
No, the mile won't affect that because if somebody signs up, their land, they agree to it, that's fine. The right of way doesn't get a mile. So if a bunch of people sign up on each side of the right of way and they put in 330 foot.
Most of them aren't that close to the road, I thought.
But we should put it right in it. There should be no shadow flicker. I wouldn't think they do it anyway, but we need to make sure that somebody.
They said they shall be set back from the public right of way 1.1 times the total height.
Yeah, and if we do a zero shadow flicker on the road.
And no shadow flicker.
Then yeah, 0. So maybe so we agree on that. Maybe just zero shadow. We agree there's 0 shadow flicker from a wind turbine on the public right of way. And I think we talk about non-participants property, which I don't think can happen anyway, but you put that in there.
Yeah.
Ordinance is very redundant. Does that we agree on that? You guys agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Do you good? Does that make sense? That's the third mug. Okay. Keep moving here. There's a lot to this. Is that good? Because we covered right away, the speed line depth. We've got the decimals kind of covered.
You covered the safety and we did setbacks last week.
So we're good. Okay.
Yes.
Where are we at now? What's left of this? We need help with road use and decommissioning.
Road use and decommissioning.
So many of those.
Application fees.
Fees and
I
application.
think we talked about raising those and
right.
setting
Yeah,
those.
the current application fees are reading other ordinances. It's kind of what we've had to spend working on this stuff and different issues. This is unbelievable. The application fees are so low.
The road use and decommissioning are two different things.
Yeah.
They're two different policies.
Yeah.
So maybe you want to stick with them next week. Just pick one. You know, pick one hit. Pick your best decommissioning plan. Bring them in. Talk about next week.
Yeah.
We've got one prepared.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That good?
Yeah.
So next week we'll do decommissioning.
Decommissioning.
Okay. Any other board communication?
Application fees and decommissioning.
We can do that.
Yeah, yeah, we can
Do
do
those two.
I was contacted by Ron Gibson for Veteran Affairs, and they had a change in their board. So, JD King will now no longer be on the board.
JD Kennedy.
Sorry, I'm sorry, JD Kennedy.
That confuses me too.
I got too many JDs. Anyway, yeah, he will no longer be on the board. So.
Okay.
So we need to take apps for that.
Yeah, they will be talking to the auditor's office and getting an application or, you know, something posted.
Yeah.
For that, but they want to give a heads up to that.
How about,
Did Troy ever go over to look at the?
well, that's what I was gonna ask you.
I did ask her, I just really had.
So I did
Did you
talk,
ask him?
I did talk to Ron. He said it did leak a little bit this last rain, but it is coming through that, so that vent is a problem up there. There's a, so I don't know if Troy ever, I know we mentioned it to Troy to go over and see what he's,
Thanks about it.
what's he feel like he can do, or if we need to get somebody else to do that. The other thing was that when I was talking to Ron, they really need to replace some ceiling tiles. He said that's probably the worst of, he said it doesn't, he said the leaking is really at a minimum. But the tiles from previous water damage is all. And so if we could, yeah, and I said, well, I know Troy could probably can do that.
Yeah. Get what we need and stick them in.
Yep, and yeah, and he said they did have, so they are getting also people in to clean. I think once a week, but they're coming during office hours, so they will be there when. So what happened before, why they quit coming was they told them to quit coming because they caught people going through the desks. And so it was a security issue that they told them not to. And so now they have a different group that's coming, and they're coming during work hours when they're there. So, yep.
Okay.
And so that has been taken care of.
And I talked to JD, and I think you talked to JD about getting a sign, the veteran sign put up with the building over there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So.
Yeah.
So they really need to get that done.
Yep. Stick her in. Okay.
Other than that, that's all I had really for.
I don't have anything. We add that to the agenda next week. We'll start working on that.
I think I've got a meeting next week with.
I had a meeting yesterday with Wabansi working on budget. That's always fun. People are poaching their people. So trying to keep people.
If there's nothing else, we're.
For the minutes.
The minutes.
I move we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, got a motion approved. Your second.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approve the minutes. Good. Now we can just adjourn. We're all good. Anything else
Good.
going on? Good. All right. We'll adjourn. Thanks for coming.